Speaking about a car, would you put bad gas in your car? I don't think anybody here would. If you knew gas was bad, you wouldn't put it in your car. But what do we do to our bodies? It's pretty amazing what we do. And the whole rewards and, abstinence tastes better than food. When you get centered and you eat healthy, you won't have it any other way. You don't have to resist it anymore. You don't have to be in that shame, guilt, remorse that brings us back into the addiction. We can be happy, start the day over, no matter what we did yesterday or this morning. The question is, are you binging on food now? Or even if you gain the weight or whatever it is, be happy and joyous in the day that God has provided for us and get back to it. With anything in life. I mean, it could be resentment, anger, fear. And when these emotions come, we could just look at them and realize they're false. Do you realize the falseness of wanting to gorge ourselves with food and eat all of this food? It's really not true. That's not where our happiness is going to be coming from. That's only going to bring us more depression, upset, and misery. But we're being brainwashed. And it's crazy when we understand that we've been brainwashed by the corporations and what they've been giving us. It's just totally amazing when we have that revelation, spiritual transformation. Step 12 says having that spiritual awakening. The perception change. Again, the perception change could be with something simple, potato, I have a banana here. But the one I talk about the most, how many calories in those gloopy drinks and everything do we, when we have the perception change, the clarity, when you have and clear out your palate and drink, water, but really drink it to taste the essence of it and to love it. And it's really, really delicious. But, especially chill it a little bit, make it a little bit cold, but it's just amazing. The transformation change. I wouldn't have, one of the soda or with all of this refined sugar and this. After a while, you just start the perception, but it's the only way out. It even says here, as I had just read to you in the 12 and 12, and I also, this is the old edition, but on page 10, it says just this. It says, we were horrified by what we were doing to ourselves with food. We became obsessed with diets. We spent hundreds of dollars, listen to this, on weight loss schemes. We bought all sorts of appetite control drugs. We joined diet clubs and spas. We had ourselves hypnotized and analyzed. We had major surgery on our digestive systems. We had our ears stapled, our jaws wide shut. Some of us went from doctor to doctor looking for a cure. The doctor gave us diets. We had no better success with those than we had with other diets we had done. The doctors gave us shots and pills. So what's the solution? What's the answer? You have a spiritual solution. In the doctor's opinion, when the alcoholics, he said that there was no solution. They said the synthetic knowledge of all the experts, the scientists, and the doctors today couldn't figure out how to cure these alcoholics. The amazing thing is a lot of people say, well, that was, in the 1930s, years ago. What today? Did they have a solution for the alcoholics of the compulsive eating? No, not yet. They haven't figured it out yet. 95, even that show where they show people they do the stomach surgery, it says right in the beginning of the show, 95% of these procedures fail. And also what I always say is the 5% who, for some reason, stay on a strict way of eating and try to resist the food, they may do it, but they're miserable. And I was miserable. The 95%, I was on it for a year, a strict called the gray sheet. I was miserable every day. And that day came where it just, I just had it and it was enough already. So where are we going with all of that? We need a spiritual solution. Starting with step 1, we're powerless. Step 2, came to believe a power greater than ourselves. Ourselves is what the corporations told us. Ourselves, when we were kids, our parents and people in the society fed us all of this sugary, crazy food. When children are really young and they're like, you put that sugar in their food, right away they start spitting it out. They will gravitate towards the healthy vegetables, but it's only with time, giving them this all the food with the salt, oil, and sugar that the corporations push on us. The advertisements on the TV, you go in a supermarket, 95% of it is junk. It's all junk. It's processed food. 50 ingredients, 49 of them are poison. The perception changed. Beyond all understanding, I wrote here. We're trying to understand and figure everything out in life. Well, if I do it this way, if I read, I had tons of self-help books and diet books, never worked. Self-help books in every other area of my life. Well, if I do this, if I do that, if I get people to like me, whatever it is in life, it didn't work. The joy and happiness is in here. It's not what we achieve. These are things that are from the outer world. How about the 5 senses, right? We take the 5 senses. All has to do with our addiction to food, taste, seeing, smelling, hearing, right? Cooking the food, whatever it is. But it talks about on page 85 in the big book about being in that 6th sense. getting out of how finite those senses. Even the third, we talk about being rocketed into the fourth dimension. We're in the three-dimensional the three-dimensional, but we could be rise above our problems. It talks about that in the big book on page 55. It's interesting, the history. They said the Wright brothers were, not too long before that, and he talks about another kind of flight, a spiritual liberation above our problems. When you want to relate it to flight, it's like taking an airplane over the storm clouds and flying above them. And we can do that in life. The perception change. Bill had it in Bill's story. He started to realize he was rocking to the fourth dimension when he went to the Townsend Hospital for the third time. Dr. Silkworth said he didn't recognize the man. He didn't recognize and he even spoke to him. He said he had a reborn. He was a changed man. Also, when Ebby came into Bill's apartment in Brooklyn, he said he didn't realize him. And he said, Ebby, what happened to you? He didn't even recognize. He had a glow in his eyes, a change. And Ebby said, I got religion. Religious philosophy, these 12 steps. Again, some people say AA, OA, it's a cult. These steps and everything, the first 164 pages, I read all kinds of religious books and all kinds of stuff. It's all in here. All of the things that are philosophical things and Eastern, Western philosophy, prayer, meditation. I mean, what more could you want? It's totally amazing. A lot of people who are into religions and philosophies, they come in here and they said they really didn't experience that spiritual awakening until they did this. So the spiritual awakening towards the food, what does it look like? What is it all about? It's that change of perceptions I just told you. It's when you started to see things differently. But the thing is this, look, it says in We Agnostics, it says on page 54, we were worshipers all the time. We worship money, success. They're trying to tell people who come in and say, look, I don't want to worship anything. I'm in control. They're saying to you, but you did worship things. You made money, success your higher power. People. So food, we're making a higher power. The shift and change comes when we started to realize that the higher power and consciousness comes from everything from the universe. When I'm in my car eating pizza or whatever it is, or when I'm into my resentment thinking, I'm not seeing the whole world. When we change our thinking, the world outside of us changes. When we have that perception change to a spiritual awakening. But also during the day, when I'm not feeling so spiritual and not that fit spiritual condition, I may go back to the food for a while or go back to my addictions, resentment, anger, and fear. But we have step 10. We read and we go back to it. It's amazing. I could read one line in this book, just one line, one paragraph. This first 164 pages has a solution almost in every page, every paragraph. And I have the perception change. So when I feel that urge to get back into my addictions, that feeling, I know I'm getting the ego saying, the feeling is a feeling. That's all it is. These emotions we have, we can observe them. We're always in the eternal present. If we're there, we can observe these emotions and look at them. But as soon as we try to resist the anger, the fear, or the gluttonous feelings, right? One of the 7 deadly sins is gluttony. They threw that in there because they knew that's one of the major 7 deadly sins, right? But the problem is that back then we have the problem today, which they didn't have back then. They barely had enough food, but not only that, the food they had was they didn't have all the